Tired of snoozing through history class? Brace yourself for a riveting journey through time as we unveil 20 historical facts that are bound to leave you stunned. From deadly dice games to bizarre battles, these shocking revelations will challenge everything you thought you knew about the past.
Once it's in the body, it mimics calcium, and so your body incorporates it into bone. And so a lot of these women ended up getting bone cancer.
Get ready to delve into the darker, more captivating side of history that textbooks often overlook. Qin Shi Huang's death. Emperor Qin Shi Huang's death in 210 BC at Shakyu Palace has puzzled historians for centuries, leaving a lingering sense of unease among those who ponder over his demise. The lack of concrete evidence surrounding his passing only deepens the disturbance felt by people trying to piece together the events of that fateful day. One prevalent theory suggests that Qin Shi Huang succumbed to illness brought on by the relentless demands of his rule. He was burdened with the monumental task of overseeing countless documents and personally managing every aspect of governance to maintain his grip on power. His exhaustive efforts, coupled with his frequent journeys across the empire, likely took a toll on his health. Despite the lack of historical records documenting his illness, the notion that such a formidable ruler could be brought down by the weight of his duties disturbs those who perceive him as a symbol of strength and authority. Contrary to the illness theory, others argue that foul play was involved in the emperor's demise. With suspicions cast on individuals close to Qin Shi Huang, such as his son Hu Hai, and trusted advisors like Zhao Gao and Lizzy, a sense of betrayal permeates the narrative of his death. The idea that those within his inner circle, individuals he relied on and trusted implicitly, could have orchestrated his downfall creates a profound sense of mistrust and apprehension among those who contemplate the circumstances surrounding his passing. Furthermore, the notion of a cursed demise adds an eerie dimension to the narrative surrounding Qin Shi Huang's death. Folklore portrays him as a tyrant, despised by the people he ruled, whose demise was brought about by their collective condemnation. While lacking historical substantiation, the belief in a curse underscores the deeply ingrained animosity felt towards the emperor and raises unsettling questions about the nature of his rule and its impact on society. In contemplating the mysteries surrounding Emperor Qin Shi Huang's death, individuals are confronted with a disconcerting reality: that even the most powerful and influential figures are not immune to the uncertainties of fate. Radium Girls. During World War I, the United States set up factories to make watches and military dials coated with a glowing substance called radium. Young women were hired to paint these because their small hands were perfect for the job. Radium was a new discovery, and people thought it was great because it could treat cancer. They used it in many products like toothpaste and makeup. The women who painted the dials were called ghost girls because the radium made them glow. Some even applied the paint to their teeth to make them shine. But the paint was a health hazard in reality. The women swallowed some while working because they had to use their lips to make the paintbrushes fine. Their bosses told them it was safe, but it wasn't. Radium can cause serious harm with too much exposure. Marie Curie, who found it, got sick and died from it. Other people did too. And as expected, the Radium Girls started getting sick too after a while. One of the first was Amelia. Molly, Magia. Her teeth hurt and had to be taken out. Then her jaw had to be removed. She died, and doctors thought it was syphilis, but it wasn't. More girls got sick like Magia did. Their company said it wasn't their fault. Eventually, they found out the radium was making them sick. A doctor named Harrison Martland showed that radium was poisoning the girls. The company didn't like this but couldn't hide it. The Radium Girls fought back. They got a lawyer and some money before they died. People heard about what happened and thought it was wrong. Years later, another radium worker sued and won. This made companies take more care of their workers. The Radium Girls story was important. It made companies realize they had to keep workers safe. This led to making rules for workplaces to keep people safe. Mary Toofs, rabbit birth hoax. In the 18th century, Mary Toft, a woman from Surrey, claimed she gave birth to rabbits, fooling doctors and even King George I. Toft's story began when she startled a rabbit in a field in 1726, leading her to dream about and crave rabbits. When she went into labor, she produced something resembling a kitten which amazed her family. Toft's obstetrician, John Howard, believed her tale and spread the news to England's leading doctors and the king. The monarch sent his own doctor to investigate, who witnessed Toft supposedly giving birth to her 15th rabbit. Convinced of her authenticity, he brought some of the rabbits back to London to show the king and prince. However, a surgeon from the royal household, more skeptical than the others, discovered corn inside one of the rabbits, proving it couldn't have developed inside Toft's womb. Meanwhile, Toft continued her charade, birthing other oddities like a cat's legs and a hog's bladder. Suspicion grew until a man was caught sneaking a rabbit into her room. Eventually, Toft admitted to manually inserting the dead rabbits and then pretending to give birth to them. As a result of her hoax, Toft faced charges of fraud and was imprisoned for a few months before returning to obscurity. However, the doctor who initially believed her story met an unfortunate fate. He published a pamphlet detailing Toft's supposed rabbit births, but fell out of favor with the court after the hoax was exposed, dying penniless. Infant pain. For centuries, there was a widely held belief that babies, particularly those born prematurely, didn't feel pain like adults did. Back in the late 1970s, doctors didn't routinely use pain relief for infants during medical procedures, opting instead for sugar water to soothe them. Surgeries and needle sticks were often performed without numbing agents. Even as textbooks in the 1980s started recommending anesthesia for babies undergoing surgery, many doctors hesitated, fearing potential harm from painkillers like opioids. However, by the mid-1980s, mounting evidence began to challenge this long-standing belief. A significant study in 1987 by Paul Hickey and Kanwaljit Anand revealed that babies indeed experienced stress responses to painful procedures. This unsettling discovery overturned the notion that infants were immune to pain and emphasized the necessity of using anesthesia to alleviate their suffering. Further research showed that babies' nervous systems were more developed than previously thought, with nerve pathways transmitting pain signals to their brains, just like in adults. The presence of myelin around their nerves ensured swift transmission of these signals, while the discovery of substance P in their brains highlighted their capacity to sense and respond to pain. The disturbing implications of these findings extended beyond the operating room. Studies in the late 1990s revealed that infants who experienced untreated pain during medical procedures exhibited heightened sensitivity to pain later in life. This unsettling link between early life pain and long-term psychological distress underscored the profound impact of medical practices that neglected to prioritize infants' pain relief. The revelation that untreated pain in infancy could contribute to a range of emotional and psychological issues, including anxiety, depression, and learning disabilities, was deeply troubling. It challenged long-standing assumptions about the resilience of infants and highlighted the need for comprehensive care that addressed not only their physical health, but also their emotional well-being. Genghis Khan's conquest. Genghis Khan is considered one of history's deadliest conquerors. His conquests caused the deaths of approximately 40 million people, leading to vast areas of previously cultivated land being reclaimed by forests. This resulted in the absorption of nearly 700 million tons of carbon from the atmosphere, according to a recent study. The study, led by Julia Pongratz from the Carnegie Institution's Department of Global Ecology, suggests that Genghis Khan's actions inadvertently contributed to global cooling by allowing forests to flourish once again. This phenomenon occurred because trees absorb carbon dioxide during photosynthesis. Contrary to popular belief, human activities have influenced the environment for thousands of years, not just since the industrial era. Clearing forests for agriculture, a practice dating back centuries, has had a significant impact on the Earth's landscapes. The Mongol Empire, established by Genghis Khan in the 13th and 14th centuries, covered a vast territory, encompassing 22% of the Earth's surface. Over the span of a century and a half, the Mongol invasion led to the depopulation of numerous settlements. As a result, forests reclaimed much of the land that had been previously cultivated. The study compared the carbon impact of various historical events, including the Black Death in Europe, the fall of China's Ming Dynasty, and the conquest of the Americas. All of these events were marked by a similar pattern of forest regrowth following widespread depopulation. Unlike shorter events such as the Black Death and the collapse of the Ming Dynasty, where forest regrowth was insufficient to offset carbon emissions from decaying material in the soil, the Mongol invasion lasted long enough for significant forest recovery to occur. Although Genghis Khan is primarily remembered as a ruthless conqueror rather than an environmentalist. Baby cages in 1930s London. In the 1930s, brave London mothers shocked the world with a startling childcare method. They suspended their babies in cages outside their windows. The trend of baby cages emerged in the 1920s, but its origins date back to Dr. Luther Emmett's 1888 book, The Care and Feeding of Children. Emmett's suggestion to expose babies to fresh air led to the creation of these cages, designed to allow infants to hang outside apartment windows. Imagine being a new parent, desperate for your child to experience the outdoors, but confined to a city apartment. These cages seemed like a solution, albeit a disturbing one. Instead of cuddling their babies indoors, mothers were subjecting them to the elements, dangling them precariously above the ground. It's unsettling to think about the risks involved. Were these cages truly secure? Or were babies left vulnerable to accidents or even abduction? The thought of infants swaying in the wind outside high-rise buildings is enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. Despite safety concerns, some mothers believed in the benefits of fresh air for their baby's health. This belief persists today, albeit in less extreme forms. Still, the idea of leaving infants unattended outside restaurants or cafes, even in strollers, raises eyebrows. But for most modern parents, the notion of hanging their babies out of windows is nothing short of horrifying. In a world where child safety is paramount, the idea of exposing infants to such risks is deeply disturbing. Thankfully, times have changed, and safer alternatives abound. Today, parents can enjoy outdoor activities with their babies without resorting to extreme measures. Disturbing mystery of the dance plague. In July 1518, the town of Strasbourg was thrust into a bizarre and disturbing event that would haunt its memory for centuries. It all began when a woman named Frau Trophäa stepped into the town square and started dancing. At first, people watched with curiosity, but soon, others joined her, unable to resist the inexplicable urge to dance. As days passed, the number of dancers grew and the frenzy intensified. People danced relentlessly, driven by an unknown force, until they collapsed from exhaustion, or worse, died from heart attacks or strokes. Authorities tried to intervene, taking dancers to shrines or hiring others to dance with them, but nothing could stop the relentless movement coursing through the streets of Strasbourg. The scene was chaotic and unsettling. Poems written at the time described men and women dancing day and night, their bodies twisted and contorted in uncontrollable motion. It was a sight that defied explanation and filled onlookers with a deep sense of unease. The dance plague of Strasbourg was not an isolated incident. Similar outbreaks had occurred in other parts of Europe, each one shrouded in mystery and dread. Some attributed the phenomenon to divine punishment or demonic possession, while others, like the cleric Sebastian Brandt, linked it to sin and Satan. Years later, the physician Paracelsus offered a more earthly explanation, suggesting that the dancers were driven by their imaginations rather than supernatural forces. He observed that certain individuals, particularly those who indulged in worldly pleasures, seemed more susceptible to the affliction. Despite numerous theories, the true cause of the dance plague remains elusive. Some speculated about a mold that caused hallucinations, while others saw it as a form of mass hysteria. Regardless of the explanation, the event left a lasting impact on the collective consciousness of Strasbourg and the world at large. Even today, the dance plague continues to disturb and fascinate. Discovery of pregnant woman grave. In the 7th or 8th century, a pregnant woman met her unfortunate end in the medieval Italian town of Imola. The discovery of her grave stirred intrigue due to its peculiar details. The woman's remains disclosed a chilling truth. She bore a child after her own demise. Her final resting place revealed her body, positioned face up in a stone grave, hinting at a deliberate interment. Scientific scrutiny uncovered that she was likely between 25 and 35 years old at the time of her passing. More distressing was the presence of a fetus, nearly full term, nestled between her legs. the infant's lower extremities remained inside the mother, yet the upper body had seemingly emerged posthumously. This macabre occurrence, termed post-mortem fetal extrusion, or coffin birth, is a rarity in archaeological annals. Adding to the disconcerting tableau was a minute aperture in the woman's skull. Measuring a mere 4.6 millimeters across, its clean edges suggested a surgical origin. The practice of trepanation, a crude procedure from antiquity, surfaced as a probable cause. This surgery, conducted as far back as the Neolithic era, aimed to alleviate an array of maladies, including high fever and intracranial pressure. Traces of healing around the cranial orifice implied that the woman survived the operation for approximately a week before succumbing to her fate. The rationale behind such a drastic intervention on a gravid woman remains shrouded in uncertainty. Theorists posit that she might have been afflicted by preeclampsia or eclampsia, complications of pregnancy characterized by hypertension and seizures. These conditions, prevalent before modern medical advancements, were historically managed through trepanation. This revelation unnerves scholars, as evidence of trepanation is seldom detected in European Middle Ages remains. The simultaneous occurrence of coffin birth amplifies the singularity of this find, prompting speculation about medieval obstetric practices. Fear of premature burial. In the past, doctors couldn't always tell if someone was truly dead. So, people had to rely on makeshift methods like checking for breathing or a pulse, which often led to terrifying mistakes. They resorted to extreme measures like shouting, poking needles, and even whipping to ensure the person was deceased before burying them. In Germany, they went a step further by establishing hospitals for the dead. These places observed bodies as they decayed, ensuring they were truly deceased before burial. Shockingly, some of these hospitals operated until the 1950s, highlighting the widespread fear of premature burial that persisted for centuries. This fear of being buried alive, known as taphophobia, was deeply ingrained in society. It was so prevalent that it became a legitimate concern for many people. Even renowned author Edgar Allan Poe was captivated by this terrifying concept, as evidenced by his stories like The Premature Burial. Real-life incidents further fueled this. For instance, a chilling account from 1885 in Buncombe County, North Carolina, tells of a man whose coffin was opened days after burial, only to find his body face down with hair pulled out. Similarly, in Ontario in 1886, a young girl named Collins was discovered buried alive. Her torn shroud and evidence of torture on her features painted a horrifying picture of the ordeal she endured. These harrowing tales serve as stark reminders of the fragility of life and the horrifying consequences of premature burial. They evoke a sense of dread and unease, prompting individuals to grapple with the terrifying possibility of waking up trapped underground, alone and helpless. The Maneater of Champawats' deadly rampage. The suddenness of the tiger's strikes instilled fear across rural India and Nepal. Without warning, lives were snatched away, leaving communities paralyzed with terror. The Bengal tiger, known as the Maneater of Champawat, embarked on a relentless killing spree, claiming the lives of over 400 individuals in a span of 7 harrowing years. This grim reality unfolded at the turn of the 20th century, as unsuspecting villagers fell victim to the beast's savage onslaught. Operating with chilling efficiency, the tiger struck with deadly precision. Its razor-sharp claws tore through flesh, its powerful jaws crushed bones, and within moments, another life was extinguished. Entire villages lived in dread, never knowing when the next attack would occur or who would be the next victim. The terror inflicted by the Man-Eater of Champawat stemmed from a convergence of factors. Loss of habitat and prey due to deforestation and human encroachment drove the tiger to seek sustenance in human flesh. What began as a struggle for survival escalated into a reign of terror, as the tiger's predatory instincts led it to view humans as easy prey. Efforts to stop the killings proved futile, as the tiger eluded capture time and again. Despite the deployment of bounty hunters, police, and army troops, the elusive beast continued to evade capture, leaving a trail of death and destruction in its wake. In a desperate bid to end the bloodshed, authorities turned to Jim Corbett, a skilled hunter familiar with the local terrain. Corbett embarked on a perilous mission to track down the tiger, risking his life to confront the fearsome predator. The showdown between Corbett and the Maneater of Champawat was fraught with tension and danger. In a moment of adrenaline-fueled confrontation, Corbett succeeded in slaying the tiger, bringing an end to its deadly rampage. Yet even in victory, the haunting legacy of the Champawat tiger lingers. The Lizzy Bordon case. The Lizzy Bordon murder case stands out as a significant event in American history, widely known for its brutality. It took place during the Gilded Age and gained national attention due to its gruesome nature. The suspected killer, immortalized in a chilling rhyme, allegedly used an axe to attack her parents. However, the rhyme doesn't accurately reflect the details of the crime. Lizzy Bordon's stepmother was among the victims, and the weapon used was actually a hatchet, not an axe. Moreover, the number of blows inflicted was far fewer than depicted in the rhyme. The physical violence occurred on August 4, 1892, with Abby Bordon being attacked first, followed by Andrew Bordon about an hour and a half later. The town where the execution took place, Fall River, Massachusetts, played a significant role in shaping public opinion about the case. Fall River was a textile mill town with various societal divisions based on culture, religion, class, ethnicity, and gender. These divisions influenced debates regarding Lizzy Bordon's guilt or innocence and drew widespread attention to the case. At the time of the execution, there was no apparent motive, and no witnesses reported seeing anyone enter or leave the Bordon property. Andrew Bordon, despite his wealth and status, lived modestly in a less affluent area of Fall River. Lizzy, who lived with her family, desired to move to a more prestigious neighborhood but was unable to do so. Initially, police suspected a foreigner of committing physical violence and even arrested an innocent Portuguese immigrant shortly after the crime. She, influenced by the prevailing nativism in Fall River, initially implicated others in the crime while avoiding suspicion herself. She sent her Irish servant to seek help from specific doctors, showing a preference for Yankee physicians. Despite her social standing as a Sunday school teacher, Lizzy's behavior during police interrogation raised suspicion. Her inconsistent answers and failure to display genuine emotion led authorities to doubt her innocence. Additionally, her attempt to purchase a deadly substance before the execution further incriminated her. 19th century dentures. In 1787, cartoons depicted poor people having their teeth pulled out for the benefit of wealthy dental patients. By 1792, advertisements sought foreign teeth for dentures, which were fitted into unhealthy British mouths. The demand for false teeth increased as sugar consumption rose, causing decay. Dentistry became a popular trade among various professionals, including ivory turners, jewelers, chemists, wig makers, and blacksmiths. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, dentists placed human teeth in dentures, attaching them to ivory base plates. These dentures were costly, exceeding 100 pounds, and uncomfortable to wear. An alternative option was ivory dentures without human teeth, still expensive for most people. Despite the expense, the demand for dentures grew rapidly. By the time of the Battle of Waterloo in 1850, dentures with human teeth were highly sought after. Thousands of soldiers' bodies provided a ready source of teeth for looters, including scavengers who traveled from Britain. Surviving troops and locals, as well as opportunistic grave robbers, extracted teeth from the dead. These teeth were then sold to dental technicians who shaped them onto ivory dentures. The process involved boiling the teeth, trimming them to fit the dentures, and shaping them to resemble a single set of upper and lower front teeth. Molars were less commonly taken due to the difficulty of extraction and shaping. The term Waterloo teeth emerged, though its contemporary usage is uncertain. In the mid-19th century, the use of human teeth in dentures declined due to regulatory changes and the emergence of alternative materials. Despite this, dentists continued to purchase both human teeth and ivory for dentures, as evidenced by a price list from 1851. The practice of extracting teeth from the dead for use in dentures illustrates the grim realities of dental care in the 19th century. Wealthy individuals sought solutions for tooth loss, driving demand for dentures made from human teeth obtained through looting and grave robbing. The BTK killer. Dennis Rader's transformation from an ordinary man living in Wichita, Kansas, to a cold-blooded serial killer would shake the sense of security. His methodical approach to violence, using binding, torturing, and taking the lives of his victims, earned him the chilling nickname BTK Killer, a name he gave himself. What's more unsettling is how he integrated himself into society, holding various jobs, including a stint in the US Air Force, and even serving as a Boy Scout leader and active church member. Rader's crimes unfolded over 3 decades, starting with the execution of 4 family members in their home in 1974. He left behind some weird stuff at the scene, initiating a pattern of taking souvenirs from his victims, such as watches and underwear. This grotesque behavior continued with subsequent physical violence, including the attack of a young woman and a mother of 2. What is truly disturbing is Rader's brazenness and manipulation. Despite committing horrific acts, he managed to evade capture for years. Even when law enforcement and the media began to take notice, he continued his spree, taunting them with letters and sending evidence of his crimes, often using cereal boxes as packaging, perhaps to mock the notion of being a serial killer. His ability to outwit authorities and maintain a facade of normalcy until his arrest in 2005 is chilling. The way Rader used his church as a cover, and later as a platform to send evidence of his crimes, adds another layer of horror. His arrogance and his manipulation of the media and law enforcement further underscores the depths of his depravity. Human remains in early modern medicine. Louise Noble, an English lecturer at the University of New England in Australia, embarked on a quest prompted by the last line of a 17th century poem by John Donne. The line referred to women as not only sweetness and wit, but also mummy-possessed. In her investigation, Noble uncovered a surprising revelation. The term mummy appeared frequently in the literature of early modern Europe, including works by Shakespeare and Spenser. This usage was due to the prevalent practice of using human remains, including mummies, in medicinal remedies during that era. Europeans, including royalty, priests, and scientists, routinely consumed medicines containing human bones, blood, and fat to treat various ailments. The consumption of human remains was not questioned. Rather, the debate centered on which parts of the body were most beneficial for consumption. Initially, Egyptian mummies were popular ingredients, believed to help with internal bleeding. However, other body parts soon followed suit, with powdered human skulls being used to treat head ailments and even included in King Charles II's personal tincture. Procuring fresh human blood posed a challenge, but was considered especially potent for medicinal purposes. Paracelsus, a 16th century physician, advocated for drinking blood, and some even suggested obtaining it from living bodies. The poor could obtain blood by paying for cups of warm blood from executed individuals, with the executioner being regarded as a healer in some Germanic countries. The belief in consuming human remains stemmed from homeopathic principles, which, like, cures like. Additionally, it was believed that human remains contained the spirit of the individual, and ingesting them would transfer their strength to the consumer. This practice wasn't unique to the Renaissance. Similar beliefs existed in ancient cultures, such as the Romans and Mesopotamians. However, during the peak of corpse medicine, Catholics and Native Americans were demonized for practices considered cannibalistic, despite Europeans engaging in similar behaviors. As scientific understanding advanced and social norms changed, the practice of corpse medicine declined. By the 18th century, it was largely abandoned, replaced by more conventional medical practices. However, remnants of corpse medicine persisted into the 19th and even 20th centuries, with examples of its use found in various parts of the world. Medieval England's gruesome punishment for treason. In medieval England, committing treason, which was worse than murder, challenged the established order. The punishment for this crime was meant to be horrifying and deter others from following suit. Historian Rebecca Simon unveils the details of a gruesome execution method used exclusively for the gravest offenders. In 1241, William Maurice, a nobleman's son, committed piracy, one of the most severe offenses against the nation. His punishment in 1242 was to be publicly torn apart into 4 pieces. This method, known as godly butchery, or 3 deaths, was unique to England during the medieval era and involved hanging, drawing, and quartering. Maurice's execution marked the first known instance of this punishment. It was reserved for traitors, considered worse than murderers because it challenged the divine order of society. The Treason Act of 1351 defined treason as actions against the sovereign, including piracy. The barbarity of this execution method meant it was exclusively used on men, as it was deemed inappropriate for women. Women convicted of treason faced beheading or burning at the stake instead. Hanging, drawing, and quartering served not only as punishment but also as a means to define acceptable behavior. Those deserving of this fate were dehumanized, with the intense pain and humiliation aiming to create a clear boundary between the condemned and society. The message was clear. Normal men would not face such punishment. Now let's see today's subscribers' pick. Marilyn Monroe, an iconic figure in Hollywood, is widely recognized around the world. Born in 1926, she spent much of her early years in foster care homes. At 16, she married her first husband to avoid returning to the orphanage, but they divorced 5 years later. Her mother spent considerable time in a psychiatric hospital, which instilled in Marilyn a fear of being institutionalized herself. The name Monroe came from her mother's side, while Marilyn was inspired by Broadway star Marilyn Miller. Marilyn struggled with a stutter as a child and during high school, prompting a speech therapist to suggest she speak in a breathy tone. Despite her fame, Marilyn's life was filled with challenges. Living under constant scrutiny in the spotlight, Marilyn harbored a painful secret. Orphaned at a young age, she was left to fend for herself. While her success in stardom provided financial stability, it also made her vulnerable to exploitation. Her life remained surrounded by mystery, with some people inventing stories about her. Marilyn Monroe serves as a reminder that fame does not guarantee happiness or peace. Despite her enduring legacy as a historical figure, her life was marked by hardship and struggles. Why do you think Monroe's life continues to fascinate people today? What lessons can we learn from Monroe's story about the pursuit of happiness? The disturbing journey of catacomb saints. Paul Koudounaris, an art historian, author, and photographer based in Los Angeles, embarked on a peculiar journey during a 2008 research trip in a German village near the Czech border. Approached by a local resident who spoke of a dilapidated church hidden in the forest, Koudounaris was intrigued by the description of a skeleton adorned with jewels, holding a cup of blood as if offering a toast. His subsequent discovery of the bejeweled skeleton, along with 2 more in another German church, marked the beginning of a chilling revelation. These skeletons, known as catacomb saints, were revered by Catholics in the 16th and 17th centuries as symbols of the afterlife's glory. Despite their once revered status, many had been forgotten over time, hidden away in dusty corners of churches, or lost to history altogether. Koudounaris's exploration led him to uncover the origins of these skeletons in the catacombs of ancient Rome, where thousands found their final resting place amidst religious persecution. The discovery of these catacombs proved to be a windfall for the Catholic Church, particularly in regions like Germany where anti-Catholic sentiment was rampant. Plagued by plunderers during the Protestant Revolution, churches sought to replenish their sacred relics. The skeletons, believed to be martyrs of the early Christian faith, became highly sought-after treasures, coveted by churches, wealthy families, and guilds alike. The process of obtaining these relics was often shrouded in secrecy and bribery, with personal connections in Rome playing a crucial role. Once acquired, the skeletons were displayed in churches as symbols of grandeur and spiritual power. Yet, the journey of these skeletons from forgotten catacombs to the altars of churches raises unsettling questions about the nature of religious devotion and the commodification of the sacred. The Rhode Island accused vampire. In the 19th century in New England, a young woman's body was dug up by the people because they believed she was a vampire. A series of deaths from tuberculosis, called consumption back then, hit Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Vermont. The sick looked sunken, pale, and drained, so folks thought they were attacked by vampires. This led to what is now known as the Rhode Island accused vampire case. In Exeter, Rhode Island, a family faced consecutive deaths due to consumption. The townsfolk suspected one of them of being a vampire, sucking the life out of others. Even after the deaths of the mother, Mary Brown, and her 2 daughters, the suspicion lingered. They decided to dig up the bodies, hoping to find the culprit. The youngest daughter, Mercy Brown, had died more recently than the previous one, so her body was better preserved. There were remnants of decayed blood in her heart, a sign people believed indicated vampirism. To prevent her from causing harm, they burned her heart and liver, mixing the ashes with water. They gave this concoction to another sick person, hoping for a cure. Sadly, it didn't work. This historical event is disturbing because it shows how fear and superstition can lead people to commit gruesome acts. The panic and ignorance of the townsfolk resulted in the desecration of Mercy Brown's remains, even after her death. The misguided belief in vampires and the desperation to find a cure for tuberculosis led to barbaric practices that only added to the suffering of the community. Disturbing reality of Thomas Edison's failed talking doll. In the late 19th century, Thomas Edison, renowned for his ingenuity, embarked on a venture to create a talking doll. This seemingly innovative idea, however, ended in failure. The doll's complex design and fragile wax recordings led to its commercial demise. What was once anticipated as a revolutionary invention became a peculiar relic of history, tucked away in the archives of the Thomas Edison National Historical Park in New Jersey. The failure of Edison's talking doll challenges our perception of innovation and success. It serves as a stark reminder that even the most brilliant minds can falter. Edison, celebrated for his countless triumphs in sound recording, motion pictures, and electric power, faced setbacks that tarnished his reputation as an infallible inventor. Peter Liebhold, a curator familiar with the story, acknowledges the doll as a symbol of failure in the realm of invention. Despite Edison's immense contributions to technology, the doll represents a misstep, a reminder of the complexities and uncertainties inherent in the creative process. For many, the tale of Edison's failed doll is unsettling. It forces us to confront the reality that progress is often accompanied by setbacks and disappointments. The doll's demise challenges the myth of relentless innovation, reminding us that failure is an integral part of the journey toward success. Disturbing legacy of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. The United States bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II, leading to the deaths of many civilians. What's haunting is the aftermath, the shadows of the dead etched into walls and sidewalks. These eerie outlines were created by the intense light from the atomic bombs, serving as chilling reminders of the devastation and loss caused by war. This historical fact disturbs us because it reveals the brutal reality of warfare. Innocent lives were lost, leaving behind only ghostly silhouettes. The shadows speak of the immense suffering endured by ordinary people caught in the crossfire of global conflict. What's unsettling is the permanence of these shadows. They serve as silent witnesses to the horrors unleashed by humanity's capacity for destruction. They remind us that war has lasting consequences, not just in terms of lives lost, but in the psychological scars it leaves on survivors and future generations. Moreover, these shadows force us to confront the moral ambiguity of wartime decisions. The use of atomic bombs, while intended to bring a swift end to the war, resulted in unimaginable suffering. The fact that these shadows remain as stark reminders of that decision is deeply disturbing. Covering slaves in honey, Pepi II Neferkare, an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, ruled for an exceptionally long time, around 64 to 94 years. During his reign, he had a peculiar dislike for flies. To tackle this annoyance, he came up with a strange solution. He made his slaves cover themselves completely in honey to attract and trap the flies. This bizarre method was his way of dealing with the pesky insects that bothered him. However, not everyone in ancient Egypt shared Pepi II's hatred for flies. Some Egyptians actually admired flies for their speed and persistence. They saw flies as symbols of perseverance. Soldiers who demonstrated such qualities on the battlefield were honored with golden fly amulets. These amulets were crafted from various materials like gold, silver, bone, lapis lazuli, faience, garnet, and amethyst. Remarkable examples of gold fly necklaces were discovered in Queen Ahotep's tomb at Dra Abu el Naga. Wearing a fly amulet was believed to offer protection from insect bites, or to keep flies away, a much more pleasant method compared to coating slaves with honey. Pepi Neferkare was known for his peculiar actions. One preserved letter from Pepi Neferkare to Harkuf, ruler of Aswan and leader of one of Pepi's expeditions to Nubia, reveals his unusual request to capture dwarves. Pepi is often recognized as the longest reigning king in history. While some sources claim he ruled for 94 years, others suggest his reign lasted 64 years, according to ancient origins. We hope you enjoy this video. See you in the next one.